really interesting. Want to listen to everything Cam's got to say today, because he's one of the only people on the planet that was in Davos a few weeks ago, or like last week, interviewing a lot of the people part of this dystopian nightmare. It's been a bit of an interesting time for you, right? It must have had quite a few messages through, I'm guessing, over the last few weeks about what you guys have been up to.
Mainly
some of those videos went.
Yeah,
some of the videos went viral.
Most of the messages I've been getting are just people who enjoyed the sarcastic comments or questions to Greta.
Mm-hmm.
But it was an interesting one, actually, because some people then mentioned she understood the sarcasm, yet she's talked a lot before about her autism. Now, as far as I'm aware, if you're autistic, you can't register sarcasm. And she was then sarcastic later on. So it's just one of the things that I've taken from that and thought, the amount of times people have said Greta's an actor, I kind of think, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to head of their nonsensical utopian bullshit campaign, you get like a 13-year-old girl, so people can. It's almost like having like a human version of a puppy, so people are like, so it's just what they do, it's just more deception, more lies. So what I just want to do, just for people who are tuning in, Callum, just so people get a bit more backstory on yourself, etc. I've been on Callum's podcast before. Callum's someone that I got in contact with each other throughout the last few years, throughout all the nonsense that's been going on. Kept in touch. You were starting to be moving into like journalism, reporting on a lot of the things that were going on, and then just seeing that how recent have you joined Rebel News?
So I started freelancing with them in October, and I signed my full-time contract Monday just gone, starting full-time permanently Monday coming.
So what's that process been like working with them?
I love it. It is great. It's just great to actually, before I knew, it was like I really had to do everything on my own, everything I wanted to do, which it was doable, but it makes things a bit harder. But now things like, I couldn't afford to just go to Davos and, kind of grill Tony Blair. But Rebel have kind of, they allow you to do all those things, and it's just great to actually get out and do more work, especially now it's not just some weird hobby for someone in his mid-20s, it's now an actual job.
Yeah, no, it's good. They've got like quite a big audience. They've quite a big following as well. They're like similar to Project Veritas in the fact that you actually go out and ask real questions. You're not just part of. Most of the journalists, they're too afraid to ask any questions because they'll just get denied access or their funding will be cut. So what's it? So obviously I want to talk about when you get into Davos, but what's it like being around the other journalists or quote unquote journalists, people that are meant to be journalists but aren't, when you're in that sort of area? Are you guys looked down upon? Is there I'm guessing there's journalistic snobbery? Do you get less access to people, etc.? And I suppose you're just trying to always fight to get your foot in the door.
Massive journalistic snobbery. There was a moment, actually, I don't know if you remember the Greta video, where someone said, Greta, would you like to talk to a real journalist? And then the comedian in me just thought, oh, this is perfect. You've just given me an open goal. And there was just silence after his question. And I thought, wait for it. Now, Greta, as a real journalist, and I actually got a bit of a response from it, and I just saw the guy's look in his eyes like, oh, I've just been made to look an absolute tit on camera. And he probably knew as well, given that we're Rebel and we get a lot of views, that a lot of people are going to see him just look a bit silly there. I don't think he said another thing after that. And he's, going back to the whole, is it difficult to get your foot in the door? It is a little bit, given who we are, because we actually ask questions, and obviously the most important people in the world, they only invite those to ask the agreed questions, the allowed questions. And well, I'm quite happy to run up to John Kerry and ask him how people should take him seriously on climate change when he takes private jets to get climate change awards.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stats on that as well. I mean, when it comes to the climate and all that, I'm going to say certain words because I don't want it to get taken off. But when it comes to that, what they're pushing is complete and utter nonsense. There's so much research showing it, and as I said, if it was true, you wouldn't be able to get insurance on a beachfront property anywhere in the world, and all these guys are buying up left, right, and centre. But when these people are sitting there taking private jets, which I think it's like one flight in a private jet is the equivalent of, I think it's like 55 years of driving a car in terms of what goes up into the atmosphere. The front of these people to all come in on private jets into that sort of place. I mean, who you interviewed? I want to get onto the specific ones, but you managed to capture like quite a few people. I'm surprised that they even let them. Walk around and with that sort of ability to be interviewed. Was you surprised at how easy it was to get access to them?
A little bit. After like day one, you kind of that surprise kind of goes because you just see so many people everywhere. So one of the ways we were operating was I've got younger, better eyes than Avi, so I'd be looking at these small lanyards. So if they've got a white lanyard with a blue underline, that's your big cheeses. And you just seen all these people walk past. I quickly look them up, and it's people that It was quite interesting knowing that I was literally the poorest person in Davos. Because I look at all these names, I was like, I know full well I have the least amount of money here. And you just go through all these names, you go, oh my God, this person's huge, this person's huge, this person's boring and they've got, there's no point asking questions. However, in a pub, they'd possibly be the most interesting person because of how big they are, the job they do, how important their job is. So the novelty does wear off quite quickly. I saw that Mark Devlin put out a video about how some people were saying that we were controlled opposition because how could we get so close to all these people? Well, my first question for those people is, have you ever been to Davos? And they never have. And literally, so if this is the promenade. You can just literally walk up and down, and there's the odd building where there'd be some talks, and then down here is the bit which is it's blocked off to everyone unless you have a lanyard, and most of the stuff happens here. But literally, at the end of this promenade here is the Black Rock building, where literally Larry Fink walked out of. My cameraman just went, "That's Larry Fink." I was like, "Oh my God, it is." So just ran over to him. These people are just everywhere. I think at times it's more of they're almost look at me. I'm CEO of BlackRock. I'm Tony Blair. I'm John Kerry. I think in a way they kind of want to be seen, although I don't think they want to be seen as much now. But next year will be interesting what they do.
Yeah, especially if do they stay where they stay or the hotel they're in? It's not in a restricted access building, so they actually, when they come out the hotel, when they come out of certain buildings, they have to walk past down that road.
So the World Economic Forum has, I think they basically have a contract with every hotel and Airbnb owner in the town that they can have it when they want. So I think there's some hotels that are kind of behind the paywall, but things like the Belvedere Hotel, you can literally walk. I semi-walk to it, but you can't get too far in because people with guns and they don't want you there. Yeah, so some of the hotels I think are kind of behind the bit where you have to have a lanyard. The thing that the Belvedere Hotel isn't. That is literally out in. It's almost like a bit of a centre point on the promenade. It kind of looks like the High Castle in a film with villains. As in, they want to be seen. Look at us in our big High Castle. Literally, you can. The one, did you see that Masaka when she spoke to Klaus Schwab? Again, that hotel. that hotel, I just walked in the next day. Like, it's not behind. There's no like armed security. It's not behind the wall where you have to have a lanyard. We literally walked in. In fact, there was a door that said "private party, no entry." We walked in that as well.
They probably didn't expect you to go to these places. I mean, and then maybe like, you know, next year, well, hopefully there won't be any the wiser. But it's what did it feel like when you were in Davos? Like, is it a weird place? Was the energy weird? How did it feel being there?
The best way to describe it's a movie set. They'll bang on about sustainability, and we got there a day before it started, and the bit where it's kind of behind the paywall and you have to have a lanyard to get in, it looks like an East German checkpoint.
Right.
And the day before all the events started, you could go through all that because, you know, there was nothing on. So we thought we'd have a look anyway, just because, you know, we're not going to be allowed it soon. And we're going down the street, and there's a church where CNBC have hired it, and they've built this timber structure extension on it. All these other buildings where they've been rented out by different corporations and countries. They've got different skins now on the wall, like temporary ones. They bang on about sustainability, yet these places are just fake, and they're up one week and down the next, just like a movie set. But even we went into BlackRock actually on that day, and they hadn't finished all their stuff. And again, inside, it's BlackRock for that week, but the rest of the week it's someone else's business,
right?
And it's all just fake.
Fake, yeah. It's all for show.
Literally that.
It's obviously in Switzerland as well, where most of these people probably got their money in bank accounts that, you know, most people, well, trying to get a Swiss bank account is one of the hardest things in the world. You can't even get one, even if you've got a passport. You have to, like, there's certain protocols you have to go through. And obviously that these people, businesses, I mean, Switzerland being quote unquote the neutral part of Europe. It's funny how these meetings always end up there. It's when you were there, like when you were around these people, was it an eerie energy there, Callum, or was it like, because you guys seem like you were in very good spirits and it was like fun to be there for you, which is great. But when you're like seeing these people, was there like, what would you describe as the energy? I know you said it's fake, but did they give off any sort of like, and when you're around them, did you feel at ease, or did you get a sense of like, you know, these aren't good people? Or maybe you didn't feel anything.
I was doing an interview, like a live broadcast on Emerald Robinson's show. She used to work with Fox.
Yep.
And I thought, you know, I quite enjoy doing all these things outside of BlackRock, mainly because I'm a bit of an arse and I quite like to poke the bear. And I was on public.
What are you there for?
Well, yeah, I was on a public path, and one security guard comes up to me and goes, "So what are you doing here?" I was like, "I'm on public path. What's it to you?" I'm like, I don't have to tell you anything. And he kind of was like, "Oh crap," he knows he's on, because I pointed out where the public bit starts and finishes. He's like, "Oh crap, he's got me there." So he starts walking around and he's looking at the entire time. And I'm doing this, I've got my MacBook balanced on a bollard so I can stand back a bit and do this thing. And halfway through I was like, I just want to stop you there. I just want you to know that, you know, I'm not suicidal. But that BlackRock security guard is now peering from behind this van. Literally, he peered from behind a van. He's just going,
strange,
taking pictures of us. And I was like, this is a bit weird. I'm on public property. I mean, they clearly know who we are. But why the need to take pictures of us? Like, what are they trying to do? And then he was like kind of keeping his distance but walking around the entire time, looking at me from quite far. It was almost like it was like he was trying to hide at the same time. Wasn't hiding very well. But then when it came across the likes of Larry Fink, who's the CEO of BlackRock, Tony Blair, there was a weird energy about them, because the World Economic Forum, they talk about how like the things they're doing is to better the planet, better everyone. So why the need for secrecy? Like if you're there to talk about things that's going to make everyone's lives better, why do you need to hide it? And I asked Larry Fink that. I said, like, why are you here? Didn't say anything, wouldn't even look me in the eye. I said, you're here for nefarious reasons. Because you say you're here for the good of the planet, but if you won't tell us why you're here for nefarious reasons. Wouldn't answer anything. Tony Blair wouldn't even look me in the eye. One of his entourage held my hand. It was a weird energy around those sorts of people, because you think, you're just bad.
Yeah, Tony, I mean, yeah, these people are bad, yeah.
But some of the people there, they almost seemed a bit, best way of putting this, blissfully unaware of the company they're in. Like I was speaking to there was one guy actually who had one of the, the Top Dog lanyards on, but he was there. He was invited there because he was a normal bloke. He was wearing fairly normal clothes, just having a cigarette. And I was asking him, I said to him, like, you're one of the most normal dressed people here. What's your story? And he was telling me about his startup that he did, where basically they take surplus food and they, he was a social entrepreneur. And I was like, just from the way he was talking to me, I was like, you're not hiding anything. You're not here for bad reasons. And I say, how'd you get to be here? And he's like, I was invited. Like, they invited me because of the success my business had. I was like, oh, you seem blissfully unaware of what you're walking into. I think, is that how they get people?
Yeah, I mean, Klaus Schwab looks like he's, an evil villain. But I mean, the prerequisites to be in is like you have to. I think it's like 500,000 to join the WEF, World Economic Forum. And there's people that have tried to join it and they've said no. So they may have invited him just so it's like a good on the public face. And we've got to have like 10 or 20 people that we invite every year that that are rich, but they don't have a clue what we're doing. And when you look at but the thing is about these people, no one's voted them in. No one wants them to they're not doing things on behalf of the people. They're doing things on behalf of themselves. They're saying, you'll own nothing and be happy about it. And, as you say, you first, you own nothing and be happy about it. It's not the world we want. None of us, like this eating bugs, this 15-minute cities. And so it's really well done that you've gone out there and you actually when you come to like Greta and a few of those interviews, I think it was like 10, 15 minutes you actually followed her for. And it's just funny how they won't answer any questions. And as you said, if you're there to help the people, if you're doing things with a good heart, then you've got nothing to hide. You just be answering questions. You just be saying, we're doing this, this is what we're doing. It's all for people, but it's obviously nefarious. It's obviously what they've been doing, what they've been linked with. It's something where the majority of people the masses are just hoodwinked and to believe in whatever it is. These are the people that lined up and took experimental poison just because the TV told them so they believe in everything they're doing. I mean, with the Greta interview, I mean, you guys were good. You kept on pressing her. And talking about things. That video went pretty viral. It was quite handy for you guys to have more than one person there, so you almost did well to surround your people when you were interviewing them, because there were other journalists there, but you guys were the ones getting the questions in. I can't remember. It was you and your Canadian colleague,
me,
right?
Ezra, and Calvin Robinson was kind of with us as a guest. So he works for GB News, but he was just kind of with us as a guest, and he had some questions, and it was like so we were waiting outside for ages. Funny that's when we saw John Kerry. Actually, it was like, oh, right, John Kerry's there. We're waiting there for ages. We might not even get it. Let's go quickly get that one. And literally at the start of that video, you see me sprint towards my cameraman, like a bit like in a 4x1. I go to get the baton to then sprint off, because we were sick. If she'd waited 30 seconds more, she wouldn't have seen us. We were leaving. We'd been waiting there for hours, and we were about to leave. But we kind of thought she was going to come out and get in a car. So we all kind of had one question that we really wanted to ask. And then we kind of, whilst we were waiting, she kind of came up with a few more. If we get a chance of a second one, we'll ask that as well. We had no idea we'd walk with her for a mile and a half. And then, to the point where you ask all your questions, and you're like, right, that's all I had prepared, and you have time. You didn't realise we had time then to literally just think, walk along, have a think, you see in one bit of the video, I've given Calvin my mic. I'm kind of hanging off to the side. At one point, me and Ezra are having a chat about what's going on. Like, we had time to think and ask more questions. Like, it was completely surreal. But it's funny, you mentioned the bug things a minute ago. And nearly all of these, like along the promenade, nearly all of these pop-up shops, like they've given out all this free food, and there wasn't a single bug thing. It was all really good quality food. I think I even saw like steak at one point, which is ironic. But it was. I think I actually put on weight that week, despite all the steps I did, because there's all this really good free food.
Oh, these people aren't eating, or they're promoting people to eat. They're going to be eating the finest organic foods, or they're all like, it's like they will talk about how it's the inverted part of the world. They will talk about how homeopathy and natural health's all through voodoo, and they're the ones that, they go to it. Like the royal family, they've been using homeopathy and natural medicine for forever. They've got their own organic farm, or it's Dutch organic. It's like the Prince of Wales, in association with the Prince of Wales. They're not stupid, these people. They know exactly what they're doing. And with the Greta one, I want to talk about the Pfizer guy as well. But with the Greta one, it's funny because I remember you guys asking about like that where she got arrested. Is it a week before?
I asked if climate change is as fake as her arrest.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's a funny thing. Obviously, that was done the week before when she was there. Obviously, to drum up more attention, right? And it was just, ask those. Have you ever seen an arrest look more staged?
No. Like, they had time for the police to stand by them and take pictures. It looked like they were taking like stock footage for like a premiere of a new cop drama, like for the posters to go on the side of the buses.
It's it's just like, and what was like the main message that they were pushing when they were there? I mean, was there any particular thing? I know they've got that overriding theme, but was there any sort of thing, like any phrases that you're hearing them say quite a lot, or what was the general gist?
It's nearly all about sustainability and climate change. That's what they're pushing right now. But you might not have seen it, actually. So in one of the buildings, there was the Ukraine building. It's really, so I went inside, and again, for anyone that then sees this and goes, he's a war denier, I from the outset, I don't know what's going on out there, and neither do most people because we've not actually seen it. But some of the things in there, where you're like, this is clear propaganda. Like, this isn't just, look, here, you should think this because here's some facts. Like, some of the pictures, I'm like, it looks staged, and their saying was, Project Ukraine is you. I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. I mean, I'm not Ukrainian, I don't wish harm on any nationality, but I'm not Ukrainian. I'm a Brit. And there was in there, they talk about how we're looking to rebuild Ukraine to be a green, carbon zero country, and I couldn't help but think build back better. Let's destroy Ukraine, and build it back better. And there's so many things out there verifiable, or like how, things are looking a bit iffy out there. But I was like, it just, to me, it spoke volumes. Things like the whole, we're going to rebuild Ukraine to be a green and prosperous country. I was like, yeah, I see where this is going.
Well, no, when you say that about, you don't know what's happening out there, none of us do. But what I do know is throughout history, people have done lots of stuff they faked lots of things to get countries into war and to get the public to back it, such as Pearl Harbor. Americans didn't want to go to war before that. That was staged, boom. And all of a sudden, from 20% of Americans, 80% want to go to war. Germans have done it before, sinking their own U-boats. There's been so many things that have happened in World War II. A lot of the propaganda that was there's been lots of evidence showing that lots of images that were portrayed as the Nazis were actually from Russia and the gulags. There's lots of that going on, and Ike talks about this a lot. Once they can use Ukraine to sort of unite NATO against Russia, something that they've been wanting to do for a long period of time. I mean, you just have to look into that and what that means for NATO. It's funny, it's like everything that they do has a particular reason behind it. They're not doing these things without a plan of action, and it's all just pantomime for the masses to get their support. Same as the whole thing we've gone through the last 2 years, the complete scam that was. It's all the same. It just goes round. It's like virus, climate change, war, rinse and repeat. And this is what we're dealing with. I mean, the other interview I wanted to talk to you about was the good one was with the Pfizer CEO. I don't think you were there for that one, was you?
No, heartbreakingly, I had gone back about half an hour, 45 minutes beforehand. I was absolutely gutted because that was what I wanted. I wanted a vaccine CEO. I wanted to grill them about, what they'd done, because I had so many questions already. I wanted to ask them, was all this, did you get it wrong, or did you do this on purpose? Because if you got it wrong, you shouldn't be trusted again because you got it wrong on such a grand scale. If you did it on purpose, you shouldn't be trusted again because that's bad. I wanted to ask him if he wanted to apologise to my mum who got injured by one of these. I wanted to ask the CEO of Pfizer, after what you did with Bextra, why should the world trust you with anything else? Especially not just what you did with that chemical, it's how you got out of it. I don't see Pharmacy and Upjohn Company bringing out a vaccine. Oh no, wait, because they can't, because they legally can't work in pharmaceuticals since you used them as a shell company to cover your ass back in 2008.
Oh, yeah, but if people understood the long list of things that Pfizer have done, I did a video on it once, I did an article on it as well. Highest fine ever paid out by a company, pharmaceutical company. The things they've done in Africa, the drugs that they brought out that have destroyed people, the things they're putting in these. You don't want to say certain words just because of the channels that we're going up to, but things that they've done that have gone into people and just destroyed people's lives in the millions, millions. These people are serial criminals, and their business model is committing crime. That's what they do. But it was a really good interview your guys got out there. I mean, all part of a team. I think it was your Canadian friend. What's his name again?
Ezra.
The boss. Is he the boss? Is he the main man?
Yeah.
All right. So so is Avi not the boss?
No, Avi runs the Australian side.
Oh, okay. Okay. So in the Canadian. So he's the main man, right? He was good actually. He managed to get the questions in, and once again the Pfizer CEO said nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Which is you think. I genuinely think he's probably kicking himself after that, because if he just lied, people would have carried the lie for him. But you can't carry silence for someone. I genuinely think if he had just lied in all his responses, it would look better on Pfizer. But instead, he just stood there silently and didn't answer a single thing. I genuinely thought were very fair questions. They weren't very aggressive. They weren't gotcha moments. I thought they were genuinely fair questions. Like when Avi asked about, if a product doesn't work, a company is then required to refund the money. So your product didn't work. Why are you not refunding countries?
Yeah, well, because all the contracts they've got in place are literally having people bent over backwards. Like their contracts, if you've actually seen them, are actually ridiculous. Yeah, and it's like the other thing they had as well is they can take if payments aren't paid back on some of these countries for the vaccines. If the payments aren't made, then they get to take some of the land of some of the country, that they own some of the country. It's crazy. So the contracts that are in this, it's how these people have been doing this. And it's time for us to wake up. Well, I don't know if you've seen recently, Jordan Peterson put out, he went live on Rogan's podcast last week talking about how he'd been working on something for like the last 24 months, 12 months, where he's putting together a group, a consortium of people that have got the values that he's got, what we've got, that are going to be going up against WEF. Have you heard about this?
I have heard of it, but I'm sceptical as to why.
In terms of what?
Well, I don't think we need the WEF, so why do we need anything else?
Well, I suppose, so if they're going to be there doing their thing and we're not, the big group and we're not part of it, how do we stop them from doing it, right? And I'll get what you say, we don't take part in it. But if they start imposing things like 15-minute cities and restrictions on me and where you can drive your car, like, it's like the only way to counter this is to have a group of people that are as rich and powerful enough to go against them.
Yeah, I suppose that is a good point. You know, if you do have a big enough collective, my only worry is, you know, how many things have started out good and then get bought or infiltrated.
True. I mean,
I understand. I do understand the reason. You think you're best of luck to them. I hope it works for the right reasons. But I've learned possibly like that one of the best ways to really kind of, it's not going to happen overnight. But I think we just get people to think for themselves again and learn, you know, the powers of things like vitamin C. Learn the dangers of pharmaceuticals. Understand how. I think the best in a world of fiat currency, the best thing currency you can have is yourself. What could if all hell broke loose tomorrow? What could you offer a tribe? That's what people really need to look at themselves at.
100%, mate, and I fully agree with that, and I agree with like individual sovereignty, and that's why I'm all about being the best person you can be, the most anti-fragile person you can be, competent amongst many different spectres in your life as possible. The only thing I would say to that is we've had the opportunity to do that for how many years, and with the masses just being so asleep, and with a group of people that have got so much money and so much power now there, and their riches just gone up and up. You know, I think it's almost like when you see this in these films, you know, like the Jedis versus the Dark Star, whatever it is. You know, it's like sometimes you have to have an opposing force because I get people can be bought, but it's just someone like Jordan Peterson. I mean, when I listen to him, I do get a genuine sense that he's a genuine person. If he was going to be bought, he could have been bought a long time ago. Like for the last 4 years, they've gone after him. They've been going through his psychology license now, and they've gone after in different ways and tried to just discredit him and ruin him. And he's still there saying these things. And so, I mean, for me, anyone we can have on our side is good. Anyone who's got the power to put a different message into the thing, because this is the other thing as well, Callum, and maybe it has to be that way where we completely split. But they've got YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, these big technocratic companies, all in alignment with the WEF and their propaganda and their transhumanist, transgender, LGBTQ. Everything they do, mate, is to reduce population. You know, if you put chemicals in the water, you inject people with things that are, they've got so many nefarious chemicals in them. They change your DNA and your gender roles.
But I'm pretty sure that injecting things like aluminium and formaldehyde are good for you, right?
Yeah, very good for you, especially if you like to be chronically ill forever or even die. But then you just look at what they're doing, like trying to destroy the family, you know, trying to push lots of this transgender stuff, and then even making the prices so high that people even think twice about having kids because they can't afford them, you know. And so that's another thing that you're looking at the other day. People were saying, I don't think I can even afford to have kids. Imagine that, like, back in the day, people still had average jobs, but they had families. Now the price of things are going so high, and they're trying to even stop people from using cities. I mean, you said you went to Oxford the other day, and had a look at these 15-minute cities.
So the other day it was Canterbury. We've been to Oxford.
Canterbury.
It's very clever how they do it. So they're all the same premise, but they use different names for most of them. So it takes people longer to cotton on. So in Canterbury, it's called the Canterbury Circulation Plan. In Oxford, it's called Traffic Filtering Systems. Bath and Bristol, it's livable neighbourhoods. And then some place in Scotland and Norwich, it's a 20-minute city. They're all the same thing. They just give them different names.
So for people that are new to this, what is a 15-minute city, 20-minute city?
So a 15-minute city is the idea that everything you possibly need is within 15 minutes of your house, which sounds fantastic. However, that's just one part of it. So it's not just that everything is within 15 minutes, so it's ideal for you and, there's a better option for you. It's everything is within 15 minutes because we're going to find you in a poverty if you try and go out of it. That is, you see all these...
They're going to fine you if you go over 15 minutes.
But that's something they say quietly.
Right.
You're like, everything's there, everything you need is within 15 minutes because you can't leave your house. Like that's the bit they say quietly. So like these, so in Oxford, it'll be a case of each household gets 100 journeys in a vehicle between sectors, zones, whatever you want to call it. Now that's per house. So let's say it's a house of 5 and all 5 drive. You've got to split those 100 between 5 of you. That's how, it's crazy regardless, the fact that people are limited to 100 trips. But it's even more crazy when in that house, it's divided, that 100 is divided by how many drivers there are.
So is this like when they're going into the actual city, or is it anywhere as well? So it's mainly just is in going towards the city.
It's in the city, yeah.
Mm.
So in Canterbury, what they're going to do is they're going to build a new ring road, and so if you want to go from zone 1 to 2, you can't just go through. You have to go out on the ring road and go through a designated route,
right?
Which just makes it a lot more difficult. A lot more. I think they're basically working on the premise of if we make it inconvenient, there'll be less backlash. So we can do it. If we make it impossible, there'll be backlash.
It's 500 journeys between a family going in and out. So, I mean, and if you've got if you've got more than one vehicle, and obviously you can it's split between them. Anything else that with these 15-minute cities? Is there any other restrictions that they're putting in?
No, it's nearly all to do with it seems to me like it's a war on private vehicle ownership. Mm-hmm. So they say they want to do things like make it green, and you know what? I'm not a big exact believer of man-made climate change. I do think it'd be good to have cleaner air to breathe.
Of course, yeah.
Which in theory is fantastic, but when you take away civil liberties, I think that's where there's a problem. But nearly all of this it seems to be like it's a war on private vehicle ownership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then if you're renting a vehicle or leasing one, and you're like, well, I can only use it like 3 days of the week, then what's the point? Or whatever it is.
It's a case of what can they do with those electric vehicles. For example, Biden's first day in office in America, when he signed the infrastructure bill, every new electric vehicle had to have a remote kill switch. 1, who has that remote? 2, why?
Yeah, well, we don't like what you said, so, you can't drive your car today, or you can't go down those roads. You like to post from Rebel News that was asking questions that we don't want to be asked. So today, you can only use your car in this area. You can only spend your money in these shops. So, catch a society.
Sounds crazy, but it's very quickly becoming reality.
Yeah, well, it's reality in China, and this is what I say to people. This is why, I'm all for anything that goes against this, but people just need to wake up and understand what's really going on. And everything, it's like people don't do these nefarious things and tell you that they're going to do them straight to your face. They hide it behind good. They hide it behind imitated good or pseudoscientific moral posturing and virtue signaling, so they can get their agenda. And it's a totalitarian tiptoe, right? They do inch by inch, and they flood the airwaves and all the channels with complete nonsense and falsified science, so people believe it. Tobacco science, bought and paid for by their companies that gain from when these things get pushed through, and people just lap it up. And it's like the other day, it's like, of course all scientists agree when you censor the ones that don't. And it's like, well, now I can't even put a post up on Facebook or Instagram saying why things are false, or I can't say certain things, because it'll just be like, oh, this is misinformation, this is incorrect. That's been the case for a year and a half, even though it's not incorrect, but I can't even post it because I'll just get shut down. I won't have a reach. And so this is where, this is where some things like maybe this organisation that Dawn Peterson's putting together will be good if we can get some other channels in terms of having to use things like YouTube, etc. There has to be a pushback, and we can push back. We can push back by obviously changing what we do, but it's like you guys, right? If you put out that interview, the interviews you've done, and etc. on certain channels, they got taken off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't think we put the fires one on YouTube, actually, because we knew full well it wouldn't last 2 minutes.
Because they get paid vast amounts by Pfizer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when me and the guy doing the UK stuff are doing things on the 15-minute cities, people don't really understand, appreciate the amount of fine tooth combing we have to go through, even things like our script. Because if we say we did the first one we did on Oxford, we labelled it climate lockdowns. Now, when we've been getting nearly 400, we've been getting six-figure views. How come that video then only gets 11,000? That's not like a big-headed, oh, I'm getting all these views, why am I not getting views on this? It was like, you have this pattern of everything's going up and then kind of plateauing at a high level, and suddenly, bam, and then the next one is back up there. Well, because this one was censored quite clearly. And they quickly, the AP, Associated Press, very quickly jump on things, especially when it comes to climate lockdowns. No,
they do it. They've done it all before, and it's like, well, you've seen what they did for the last 2 years when they were saying, oh, this is not true, this is not true, this is not true, and now it's come out, of course it's true. They're like, oh, well, we didn't have the information, or, it's like whatever excuses they come up with. It's like, oh, we've been saying this for 2 years. And so...
Yeah, we were doing an Instagram live and you mentioned the V word, and seconds later, gone.
Boom. Yeah, gone. And this is what I'm saying, this is why people need to, people that tune into you, they sort of no, they need to get this word further and further out. Twitter now you guys can post on. As much as I don't believe that Elon Musk is the savior people think he is, at least your videos can actually be on there. You've got the option of either having a vaccine from Bill Gates or having a Neuralink in your head from him. Yeah, neither one I would recommend. But at least you can get views out. Yeah, at least you can get views out. Where do you guys? So, where are most of your views at the moment? Is it on Twitter?
Well, we do. We still use YouTube a lot. As far as I'm aware, actually, Rebel, because they split into different kind of sub channels. Rebel News UK, I think, is actually technically monetized because we've not had any strikes. But the main Rebel channel isn't, because of they've had strikes. We use Rumble as well. It all gets uploaded on YouTube and Rumble. Just unfortunately, a lot of people still just use YouTube, don't they? Mm. So it's like, you can want to change your platform as much as possible, but if the people aren't going with you, then it's a bit pointless. Exactly.
That's where they've got you. That's why they made you sign up for all these things, and then it's like, oh, well, now we. But 10 years ago, it was like, yeah, cool, put whatever you want on. Then they just changed the goalposts. They're like, well, everyone's got all their platforms. Everyone's on all these platforms. Now we will dictate what you can say and what you can't. And someone like myself, goes against the narrative, and you, that's like, well, like now we're fucked basically, and that's
I
where
got a strike in last December on my the Frankly Speaking channel from a video that was a year old because they
mate,
changed.
I get it all the time. Mate, I get like on my Facebook. I don't know how. Well, yeah, my Facebook. I get banned from things I posted in 2019 or 2020, and it's like they're just these algorithms. You know, short of actually marching into Instagram or Facebook and like getting them to whatever off your account. I don't know what else you can do. I don't think it's a software you can use. I don't know what you can do to try and get rid. But that's the thing. If you're not getting views and the public don't know, this is where things like, anything that can combat it, I think it is good. I mean, what's your next step? Where you going next? What you were looking into next?
We'll be going to Ireland soon.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a big immigration problem there, and for a lot of men getting raped by migrants. Like, a weirdly considerable amount. Enough that it's actually getting traction that people are starting to notice.
What, so men are getting raped?
Irish men, yeah.
Interesting.
And it's insane. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to go to Calais as well. So we're focusing the moment. Our two main focuses are illegal immigration and 15-minute cities. That's what we're focusing a lot on the UK.
The illegal immigration it's massive in England. It's massive in France. I mean, you see a lot of like these. They say like military-aged males coming over. I've seen videos in Ireland with a lot of like the Irish people like confronting these guys. In your opinion, what is going on?
Well, I think there was a thing. Was it a UN thing? I want to say in like the 60s or 50s. I can ever since I first saw it, I can never find it again. But it was about how it was I could be chatting bollocks, or it could be true. But it was on about how an idea was to basically mass migrate people in all these different countries and destroy cultures of nations. So, like, everyone becomes almost nationless and has no identity, and everyone's the same. And I think there's a lot of that going on. Like, we are seeing
melting pot.
Yeah, we are seeing the fall of the West.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Like, we are different to the French. Like, we have a lot of similar values. They quit a lot quicker than us, but like, we are quite similar, but we're very much different, despite the fact there's only a couple of miles between us at some points. And the Germans are different to the French. But now we're seeing all these countries. We're all becoming like each other, but not like we ever were.
Oh yeah, 100%.
A completely different country.
It's like the malls, right? You go to a mall in any different area of the world, and it's all the same. And so. And so this is, what we're trying to do, take away any pride. And people say, oh, that's like nationalism's bad. It's like, no, when you go to Europe, different countries, you want to experience a different culture. You want to take it in. You don't want to just go to the same thing. And that's what they're doing. And within space, I've been on this planet only 37 years. Within, 37 years of my life, things have changed massively. And, this is all part of their plan. Take away people's identity, take away like their pride. And everyone's the same, it's crazy, and people just go along with it. It's one of the things being out in Mexico. This is like probably like England was back in like I say the 1940s. It's very like gender roles. There's a very big sense of national pride. They haven't been bought and paid for because the people that run the country aren't government.
I think it also just is part of a. I think governments are seeing this as an opportunity to destabilise people. Like, whilst you're focusing on this problem, we'll just do this over here.
100%. So when you're going to when you're off to Ireland?
I think next week.
And are you going to be interviewing Irish people? Or will you be interviewing immigrants?
We're hoping to get some interviews lined up. There's a guy out there who's been like dubbed the Irish Tommy Robinson.
Right, yeah.
want to try and get in touch with him.
Is he the one who's going around interviewing, like, videoing the immigrants and saying, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Could be that guy.
I've seen a couple of videos, because a few of the immigrants are begging on the street, or the women are begging on the street, and then the men are around the corner, and he goes around to the corner and says, "What are you doing with your woman leaving your woman on the street begging, like, you guys?" And they'll try and attack, or basically come to attack him. He's like, "What the hell is his island? Like, what are you doing?" Like basically prostituting out their woman to try and beg for money for them.
It's disgusting.
I don't know if you've seen that video.
Yeah, I've seen. There's another one I saw yesterday as well, where broad daylight, an illegal starts to try and assault, I think it's a 14-year-old girl in broad daylight in the street. Like, I don't know if do they calculate it and go, yeah, the risk versus reward, I'm going to do this, or do they think at all? Like, a lot of people, like, you know, when people say, "Oh, they're like," you see them like feral animals, people go, "Oh, it's racist." But when you see videos like that, and you go, that is almost like a feral animal.
I don't know if it's just different culture or whatever.
Yeah.
There's so many things in the... Where are these immigrants coming from? Where are they coming from, Callum?
Well, I mean, there was a lot obviously coming from like North Africa and the Middle East, but a big one in the UK at the moment. I don't know what it's like in Ireland, but we're getting a lot of Albanian men.
Right.
Like young Albanian men. And there was an article in, I want to say it was the Mail, an Iraqi refugee was saying that a lot of the Albanians, they get to the hotels and then within a few hours they're getting in blacked out cars out front and never seen again. Now, Albanians currently are some of the biggest gangs in the country. I think Liverpool, is the only place in the UK where they don't run the drugs. That's the last British drug lords are in Liverpool.
I'll tell you why that is, because Liverpool is a city, but it's also a small town. Everyone knows everyone. And it's like, you go out there. Liverpool is somewhere I could easily live in the UK. It's a really cool place, and it's like, it has a sense of pride and identity. When it's like, when you see them, it's like not English first, it's like Liverpudlian first. You know, that's what, have you been up there before?
Yeah.
And you get that sense that they're all very proud about being from Liverpool. Well, I think other areas don't have that sense anymore. And so I'm not surprised that they sort of stuck together there. But, I mean, Albania, the people coming over and they're getting into cars. They're getting put up in hotels. There was a hotel not far from me that a lot of them were written as well.
There's over 400 hotels in the UK on government contracts to house illegals.
It's interesting, right? When you get these people in these areas.
Have you seen the video where we went inside?
No.
So we're the only people that have been in one to secretly film. We went in there as electricians, and it stinks of money laundering. Like, it's something that I think each illegal gets, as well as getting housed, fed, clothed, legal aid, language lessons, and they get to about £40.85 a week.
Right.
So now I did the maths in this one hotel. If you totaled up, if every room was filled, and on this hotel actually, I forget the name. It's one of the ones at Heathrow. But basically, up until April 24, it was fully booked. I couldn't book a room because it's on one of these contracts. So if you totaled up every illegal, if every room had one in, and you totaled up all their money, there was £27,000 going
a day
in cash a week to that.
A week.
That's what I get a year, and that's coming out of the public purse per week in cash to just one hotel's worth of people.
So £1,404,000, and you times that by 400. So it's 561 million. No, my God, that's 561,600,000.
So a lot.
Yeah, 561,600,000. I think that's right.
So that's if all hotels were the same size. Some are bigger, some are smaller. I mean, in Skegness, four of the seafront hotels have been bought up by foreign investors. They're going out. They've taken up these government contracts, and part of these contracts is what come the end of the contract will pay for any refurbishment. So they buy these all at knockdown prices. They get all this money from the government to house these illegals, where they'll basically do all the work as well. And then come the end of it, it's like, okay, we'll pay for any repairs. You know full well they'll go, right, let's, they broke all this, and they'll renovate it to be like apartments, and then they'll sell them. But it's nearly all foreign money as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of foreign money all over England now. I mean, there's so many of them doing it. They all sit empty as well. So much investment going on. It's actually amazing. Well, it's amazing that this happened, but with what they're trying to do and create a melting pot and create an identity, it's no surprise what they're doing. And people need to wake up sharpish. So I'm really sort of, people like yourself going out there and doing this, it's waking people up. It's huge props to you, my man, because a lot of people,
Thank you very much.
It's not that many people out there willing to go and put themselves out there and risk being criticised and ostracised. Like, for example, myself, last 2 years when I was just writing the truth, lost lots of friends over it, but the truth was more important to me than that. And I know the same with you. We've had conversations about it before, the truth. And because in the day, these people don't realise that you're fighting for them as well.
It's weird. I had an argument with someone during the when everyone was having more pricks than a second-hand dartboard from all these pharmaceuticals, and I was arguing with someone else, and they got really irate. I was like, look, I'm arguing with you about all this. I'm doing all this research because I actually care about you. Like, I know you personally. They don't give a shit what happens to you. They don't know you. They don't care about you. Here is their long list of crimes they've committed. And it's not just they've committed and then they've been punished for it. They've then found ways to get away with it. Does the list have to go to here before you then think, oh, they're a bit bad, they are? Does it have to get to here, to here? Like, at what point, how many times do they have to commit crimes before you go, do you know what? I don't think I trust those strangers that keep screwing me over. I might trust this person that knows me personally, has actually done quite a bit of research, whether it is wrong or not, but they've actually put in the hours to learn these things. They put in the effort, and they get things right. Maybe I'll start trusting them. And, again, I lost some friends over it, and, some family members got really annoyed. But at the end of the day, I sleep at night and my heart is fine.
That's the thing, yeah. My intentions are good and my heart's pure, mate. The people, I think it was Thomas Sowell who said, people will forgive you for being wrong, but people will never forgive you for being right. And it's like, if all this stuff that's come out, it just proves you right time and time again. That's something a lot of people's egos can't take. And I think it's Ken Wilber who's like a consciousness expert and talks about how 95% of the world population, they're still operating at the level of a 12-year-old in terms of the level they get psychologically, and that's why we've got loads of people running around in different chakras and stuff and doing the second chakra that never get above a 12-year-old's level. Yeah, well, the thing is, when you do that, it's like arguing with a child. They never can see it from your perspective, and they'll never forgive you for being right because their ego can't take it. And so, when the information comes to bear, the truth, if it can get destroyed by the truth, it should get destroyed by the truth. Unfortunately, we're in a world today where people don't want the truth. They just want, and they also don't want to fight. This is why, demasculinization of men, this whole transgender thing. And this is why another reason, I don't know what your views are on someone like Andrew Tate, for example, but like if he's getting together a big group of men, he's got something there where people can join called the War Room, big group of men that are actually financially capable, believe in traditional values, etc. That goes against what they want. They don't want powerful men getting together. So anything they can do to break it up. That's just one example of it, of other things that they're talking about. And so anything that can reduce men from being masculine, break up the family dynamic, reduce identity, pride in anything, make you more susceptible to be controlled. They got the TV, my man, right? And so they can. But one of the good things, though, is a lot of the viewing figures for traditional news channels and traditional channels are way down, and viewing for people like yourself is way up. So at least, those sort of statistics are showing people do want the truth, but you just got to find it. And what they're doing is, they're making it almost impossible for people to find you.
Yeah, and they're making it very different. On the Andrew Tate thing, I don't know the guy personally. I've never met him, but the way they're going after him tells me that he's onto something. And nearly everything I've ever heard him say, I don't look him up and Google him like a fanboy. So I don't know too much about it. But whenever I see quotes of his, I'm like, that's bang on. And we are seeing, the likes of Sam Smith is the current man on the TV. That's not something for men to aspire to. Men should want to have a woman and a family, and should want to provide and protect. That's not sexism. It's just our animalistic nature. Women, by and large, are better nurturers. That's not to say men can't be nurturing, but women, by and large, are better nurturers. Men, by and large, we are physically stronger. Doesn't mean women can't be physically strong, but we just are. We are the ones designed to hunt, defend, attack. That's what we are designed to do. We put muscle on better. We can distribute it better. We have the bone structure to take more weight. It's like a lot of, men should be men. And funny enough, actually, so since you actually, and I'll give you nearly all the credit here, woke me up to how many toxic chemicals are out there. I started looking at things like makeup. Women, if you're watching this and you want to have children, one, stop wearing it because you don't look better. Believe you're attractive, and people believe it as well. Doesn't make you better. You're selling a lie. Secondly, it's full of toxic crap. There's lots of chemicals in makeup. The skin absorbs is the biggest absorber in the body. There's lots of toxic chemicals in makeup that have actually been linked to making undeveloped babies androgynous. So we're blurring the lines between masculine and femininity. And to me, the proof's in the pudding. Look outside now. We have Sam Smith.
This is 100%. So you've got lots of things in the makeup, and then other things in the water supply, atrazine. So it's making all the male frogs female frogs, and it's also meaning that alligators in the Everglades, their penis is not long enough to actually impregnate the women. But then you've also there's so many things like that. I mean, there's millions of things people put on their skin, what they're brushing their teeth with, what they're washing their hair with, what's going into their actual food. Then how vaccines, they have chromosomes from female fetuses going into men as well. So that changes you. Then food, the things they're putting in the animals that you're eating, things they're putting in the air, people cooking with Teflon pans, which is forever chemical that has been linked to things like birth defects, cancer. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, we can go on and on. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, when people actually understand what's going on, you're being hit at every angle, and then you've got the social dynamic. If you're constantly seeing things like gay couples or LGBTQ, pushing it into the mainstream. It's a very minority group of people, but they're pushing it into mainstream all the time. People think it's normal, and if you've got children, it's like someone one of these transgender women or whatever you want, I don't know if it's men or women, whatever you want to call it. It was trying to be a woman, but it was a man. It was a man. So, and he had a transgender partner, whatever, and they had 2 kids that they brought up. And funny enough, these kids were only, I think, 5 and 8 years old, and they were already transgender. It's like, well, of course, that's what you're around. So if you're social, humans, you see all the time this thing called epigenetics. And it doesn't matter what your genes are. If you live a certain way, you never express them because your environment's super powerful. And if you're around people all the time. Also, mate, I don't know if you know about Pottinger's cats. Francis A. Pottinger was a doctor who wanted to do an experiment to see what would happen if you changed the diets of cats. So he fed 3 generations of cats their usual diet, which was raw milk and raw food, and then he fed another another group of cats, pasteurized milk and cooked food. Within 3 generations, the cats that were fed cooked food and pasteurized milk were infertile, started to go after the same sex of cat sexually, and couldn't land on their feet when dropped from a high distance like they could normally. So infertility, going after same-sex relationships, lost the ability to be agile or to find themselves physically. And that was 3 generations. And we're in like the 3rd, 4th generation of being exposed to this stuff now. And what you see with most people, and they're so toxic. Yeah. They're so toxic. They don't even realise they can't think clearly. They're exposed to so much nonsense that, you said before, try and tell people that they've been fooled. It's very hard, especially when they get all this information from these quote-unquote specialists.
Yeah, was it Mark Twain that said it's easier to fool someone than to convince them they've been fooled? And we're seeing that en masse.
That's where we're at, mate. And so, keep doing your thing, mate. Keep going out there asking the hard questions, and because the audience is growing and people are extremely grateful for it, and it's awesome to see, mate. I wonder where. It'll be good to see where you're going to be in next year and 5 years from now, mate. But keep on doing it, mate, and we're definitely keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. And I didn't kill myself, just to let you know. Let's get that one out there.
Me either. I've never suicide myself.
You annoy some of these people, and you genuinely start to think God, you look at that guy that created that car that could run on water. He disappeared.
They all disappear, mate.
He just happened to die. People who are usually onto something tend to, disappear. Have you seen that thing about that Chinese spy balloon that eventually got shot down? They said it only got shot down when it had evidence on the Clintons.
Mate, it's hilarious the amount of distractions they put out there, and people just eat it up. They're like, there's so much that they do, and people just, they're just looking to be distracted. People got no purpose. They're just constantly consuming. They've got no purpose. They've got nothing to move towards, and that's it. You get destroy. You make people work for a pittance. You take away. Literally, the people. I think there was a quote. It was like, I think the only thing worse than a world with religion is a world without it, because at least religion gives people some.
I think that's bang on. So, at the start of the pandemic, I was a staunch atheist, but I was pissed off that churches were closed, because I understood that some people needed it.
100%.
And it's funny about it. I was talking to Calvin Robinson when we were coming back from Switzerland. And I was talking about this, and he was like, "Yeah, I actually think a lot of the church is kind of infiltrated with people who aren't, they don't really believe." He says a priest should die before he shuts his church. I was like, to me, that's bang on, because if you truly believe, what have you got to fear? What do you have to fear? And I started to become more agnostic, and I've started to actually think now. Actually, I think like 90% of me says I'm a Christian. 10% just says we're in the Truman Show.
Well, I'll give you a good interview. Paul Chek talks about the truth about religion, and there's 4 different ways to take it. The lowest form is literally like how most people take it, and the highest form is inspirationally. When you take it inspirationally, and there's some really good people that you can listen to, but most people are like fear God, like do this and he'll banish you to hell when you should. It's like that's not how religion is meant to be. And it's like people think that a myth is just like something didn't happen. Well, myths are things that. Yeah. Something that never happened but happens all the time, and there's like things in the myth that you're meant to take from it. It's like certain stories that you get, and with religion, there's certain things like you've got fundamentals that keep families and communities together. Certain
community
principles. Yeah, that's what they're trying to
get. Who neighbours these days?
Yeah, well, this is why you're almost trying to create our own community, mate, of people that are on the same values, and then it's like. If something happens, then you've got a group of people around you that you trust, and that's one of the things that I've been working on as well, is creating a couple of them around the world, and even in our own countries, but where people get to know each other, the same principles. I've got some people in America I'm talking to as well. It's something that I think, because it's like one thing that technology has done. It's allowed us to communicate and meet people that have got the same values as us, and so we can put that together, and that's why. Gonna try and get we're doing lots of things to really change the world, and put all the energy into it. And one of the things is building community. So we've got one of the people I follow. She's got a community out in Costa Rica already. She's doing that, and it's just different areas. So people can be in any country and be like, well, these are people that I can trust, and that's a good thing. But having principles and values, as you said, when you actually start to look at it, when you actually start to dive into what things, this is the other thing, mate. They're trying to tell us that we have got no soul, that we're just these meat bodies, and we'd be better off being hooked up to a computer, the transhumanist agenda. When you actually understand,
not meat bodies, be vegan bodies soon.
Vegan bodies, yeah. But when you go into that and actually realise that at spiritual level what we are, and we're so busy doing and being distracted that we can't even connect to soul or what we're actually meant to be here and do. Like, this is another conversation we can get into another time. I'll give you some stuff to look into on this. It's a bit deeper, but when you actually start listening to your spirit guides, your soul, and you go on that rather than being distracted. Everyone's in a world of distraction. If we can get people doing, we can get them away from why they're actually meant to be here and what is actually the purpose of being on this planet. And that's what they're doing. It's just distraction. And because the human body is so resilient, they have to hit us from all these different angles, which is what they're doing. And the good news is, if you vibrate at a certain level, if you live in a certain way, if you disengage from everything they do, and you put your energy into that. That's why I love having these conversations, to get people aware, but to also say, look, it doesn't matter what they're doing. If you live a certain way, if you put your energy into being the best human you can be, if you connect to soul, connect to your spirit, it will guide you and it will never lead you wrong. The ego is one thing, the spirit's another, and your soul. The ego will do things to fracture relationships, the soul will do things to bring them together. But if you actually understand that what your bigger purpose is, you're not just here to pay taxes and die. There's a reason why you're here, whether it be just to make connections for people and for that to grow. It's like society wins when people or men plant seeds for trees that they'll never see fully grow, and that's something that we're so busy looking for this instant gratification today, and just it's all about us. People are not looking at things that go deeper than that. And just like what you're doing with these interviews, telling people do you want to have a culture anymore? Do you want your country to still have an identity, or do you want it just to all be just ruined by letting everyone come in and take away our values? And that's something that people are going to have to decide on their own. But it's important that you go out there and have these conversations, mate, because otherwise, people are just being blindly led down the path.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Technology got us in this mess, and it's now our only way out.
Well, yeah, it's everything's got a positive and negative. It's just whether you use it. It's like creating content, going on there rather than just consuming all day. If you're just consuming, so are you being vigilant of what you're consuming? Are you listening to people that can actually improve your life, or are you just being distracted by noise? And there's so much noise. No wonder people are so lost. There's so much information, people don't know what the truth is anymore.
Yeah. What sort of reading materials were you wanting to send me, just like other people can kind of...
I'll send you some interviews on a couple of the ones I've got from Paul Chek. He's got a couple of really good podcasts. I'll send you ones with the guys from Mind Pump. It just goes into, there's just some really good understanding about religion at deeper levels. He's someone who studied every religion. I can't remember, there's one guy in the world I can't remember his name, who's literally studied each religion by going and living in that religion for 5 years apiece.
Is it someone who's around now?
Yeah, he's around now. Yeah, I'm going to try and get his name. What's his name?
Is it Tom Holland?
Don't think it's Tom Holland, no. He might be another one who's done that as well.
I think he's very well versed in all these things.
I'll have a look. I'll send you the interview over. But it's one of the ones he did with Mind Pump. Let me have a quick look at this. I can give you Paul Chek. Mind Pump. God, let's have a look. It's a really good interview. These are guys from Mind Pump, and they're it's Paul Check on stress, caffeine, God, and much more. It's a phenomenal podcast, and it goes into it, and then you'll able to listen. Paul Check's someone that you'll ask him a question about performance, and he'll be talking to you about, masculine, feminine energies, yin and yang. He'll be talking to you about, soul science, and then God and its relationship to the stars. He's someone he's got so much knowledge. He goes deeper than the average man. So I'll send it over to you. And in fact, you can just look it up. It's Paul Check on stress, caffeine, God, and much more.
I'll look that up.
And Paul Check's someone that if you want to learn, he's like the holistic godfather, but he goes deep into so many different areas. But man, I've got to shoot. But it's been a pleasure, my man. Keep in touch and keep doing your thing, mate.
Yeah, definitely. And
let us know. Will do. So I was going to say, where can people find you, Callum?
Twitter, it's C_Smiles_news. So as in the letter C, Smiles as in and _news. And then on Instagram, I'm mainly on @FranklySpeakingPolitics still. The still is a part of that, which means I'm usually still on that.
Frankly speaking politics.
Yeah. And you'll have to let me know when you're back in the UK and we'll go for dinner again or something.
Perfect. Will do, my man. 100%. Cool. Cheers, Cal.
Right. Look after yourself. Take care.